My name is Ria, and what I'm about to tell you still makes me shiver when I walk past mirrors. It started last December, right after I got a promotion at work. My job as a nurse had me covering nights at the hospital, and I needed someone to watch my 5-year-old daughter Mira during my evening shifts. I posted an ad online, nothing fancy, just a basic listing on a local job board. Within the hour, I received a message from a girl named Kali. She said she lived a few streets over, had experience, and loved kids. Her photo showed a pale, thin girl with long black hair and soft features. She looked maybe 19, and her smile seemed practiced. We did a quick video call. She was polite, but a little quiet, which I chalked up to nerves. She said all the right things: CPR certified, used to caring for younger siblings, and flexible with late-night hours. I was desperate, so I hired her on the spot. She started that Friday. That night, Mira seemed oddly nervous. When Kali walked in, Mira backed away and whispered, "She looks like the girl in the mirror." I laughed it off, assuming Mira had watched something spooky on YouTube again. But when I kissed Mira goodnight and told Kali I'd be back by dawn, I caught a strange look pass between them. Kali's eyes didn't leave Mira's face. Her smile twitched, almost like she was trying too hard not to grin. By 2 a.m., I got a call on the hospital phone. It was Kali, but she wasn't speaking. I heard humming low, breathy humming, then a whisper, "She's gone into the mirror." I left the hospital immediately, adrenaline roaring in my veins. I called Kali over and over, but she didn't answer. I even tried our landline. Nothing. When I got home, the front door was unlocked. The lights were on, but the house was deathly quiet. "Kali," I shouted, panic bubbling in my throat. "Mira." No answer. I ran upstairs, heart pounding. Mira's bedroom door was wide open. Her bed was empty, blankets folded perfectly at the edges. Her stuffed bear was sitting upright, placed precisely in the center of the pillow. The mirror on her closet door, one of those tall, old-fashioned ones with a beveled edge, was foggy, like someone had breathed on it. Then I saw it: handprints, small, child-sized handprints from the inside of the mirror. I screamed and turned to run, but Kali was standing right behind me. I swear to God I didn't even hear her come up the stairs. She smiled grinned on, said calmly she wanted to see what was behind it. I just helped her. I shoved past her and grabbed my phone, about to call the police, but Kali was gone, vanished. No sound of footsteps, no creak on the stairs, just gone. The police arrived 10 minutes later. They searched the entire house. No signs of struggle, no signs of Myra, and worst of all, no record of any babysitter named Kali in the entire area. Even the ad I posted was gone from the website. My inbox was wiped clean. The photo I thought I saved, corrupted. They treated me like I was delusional. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. And then, a week later, I started seeing Mira. Not her, exactly, but reflections of her, in windows, in puddles, in silverware, always looking back at me. Sometimes scared, sometimes smiling, sometimes mouthing words I couldn't hear. It's been 6 weeks since Myra disappeared. Every mirror in the house is covered. I use paper plates. I shower in the dark. And I've replaced my phone with an old flip phone that doesn't have a front-facing camera. I don't own a single reflective surface anymore, but the reflections find me anyway. 2 nights ago, I was in a cab. The driver had one of those rear-view mirrors with a tiny rosary hanging from it. As we passed under a streetlight, the mirror caught my eye. Mira was there, sitting in the back seat. I spun around, nothing. Then the driver said, "She your daughter? Cute kid." I asked him what he meant. He looked confused. "She's not with you." Last night, I was pouring water from a kettle into a mug. For half a second, in the sheen of the metal, I saw her again, but this time, she wasn't alone. Kali was behind her, watching me, smiling. Tonight, something new happened. I heard Mira's voice coming from behind the bathroom mirror. "Mummy, come in. It's better here. I'm not scared anymore." There was tapping, soft at first, then louder, like nails against glass. I could feel the vibration in the walls. I don't know what this thing is, if it was ever human. But it used my daughter, took her. Maybe it is her now. They say mirrors show the truth, but sometimes they show something else, something that wants out. I've decided. I'm going in after her. The mirror in Mira's room is still uncovered. It's been humming. I don't know what I'll find, or if I'll ever come back. But if someone finds this story, if you ever meet a babysitter named Kali, with a smile that twitches at the corners, don't let her in. And for God's sake, cover your mirrors. Asterisk. My name's Arman, single father to a beautiful 7-year-old daughter, Sarah. We live in a mid-rise building in Pune. Not a fancy place, but safe. Well, I thought it was. This all started after my sister got married and moved to Delhi. She used to watch Sarah during my night shifts as a security tech at a server warehouse. I didn't want to leave Sarah alone, and I sure as hell couldn't afford an expensive nanny. That's when Mrs. Deshmukh, my elderly neighbor from apartment 6A, told me her niece from Mumbai was visiting and looking for babysitting work. Said she was sweet, reliable, great with kids. Her name was Ritika, 18, with a soft voice and strangely formal Hindi. We met in the hallway. She was odd. Her eyes were too wide, and she stood very still like someone waiting for instructions. But she smiled when she saw Sarah and knelt to say hello. Sarah smiled back, though a little stiffly. I hired her out of desperation. Just for a few nights, I told myself. The first shift, I left around 7:30 p.m. I showed Ritika where everything was, the fridge, Sarah's medicine for her allergy, and the Wi-Fi password. She nodded politely and never asked a single question. At 1:13 a.m., I got a text from Ritika. "Sarah is asleep." I made her quiet. That wording made me pause. I called no answer. I left work early and rushed home. Everything looked normal. Sarah was in bed, fast asleep. Ritika sat on the couch, watching some black and white show, on mute. I asked her what she meant in the text. She smiled and said, "I helped her go to the quiet. She talks too much." I didn't sleep that night. Over the next few days, Sarah started acting strange. She stopped drawing, which she used to love, stopped singing, and when I asked her about Ritika, she just said, "She tells me to listen to the floor." I asked what that meant, and Sarah pointed up. She says the people upstairs are too loud, and that they're in the walls now. I stared at her. "But baby, we are on the top floor." She blinked. "That's what I said." But she said no. Real room is above ours. I confronted Ritika that night when I returned. She was sitting cross-legged on the kitchen floor with all the lights off, whispering. "What are you doing?" I asked. She smiled up at me, but her teeth looked too clean. "I was listening to the walls. They hum here. I like this flat better than my old one." That's when I noticed her fingernails were cracked and bleeding slightly, like she'd been scratching something. Later, I found claw marks under Sarah's bed. I fired her on the spot. She stood, calmly, and said, "I'll leave. But the ones above don't like you keeping her from them." She already heard them. I locked the door behind her. The next morning, I found a dead crow on our doormat. Its eyes were missing. After Ritika was gone, things didn't get better. Sarah began sleepwalking, murmuring things in her sleep that didn't sound like her voice. Once, I caught her standing in the bathroom, holding her toothbrush and brushing her hair with it, whispering, "Not clean, not clean." I went to Mrs. Deshmukh, furious. "Why did you send her to my house?" I shouted. Mrs. Deshmukh looked confused. "Who?" "Your niece, Ritika." Her eyes went pale, and she held my wrist tightly. "I don't have a niece. I haven't spoken to anyone in Mumbai in 10 years. Apartment 6B has been empty since that girl died. My chest felt like it collapsed in on itself. What girl? She hesitated. The last tenant, in 6B, lived alone, said she could hear things, started babysitting for neighbors for free, even when they didn't ask. She was disturbed. One day, a child in 6C went missing. They found claw marks on the child's bed. Police broke into 6B. The girl had gouged her own ears out, said the children weren't listening properly. She hung herself that same night. I asked her when this happened. She said, 8 years ago. I had to sit down. When I contacted building management the next day, they confirmed it. 6B had been unoccupied for nearly a decade. The door was sealed shut from the inside. When I asked who had the key, they just shook their heads. The lock had rusted shut. That night, I found Sarah kneeling in the corner of her room, staring at the ceiling. "They're calling me from the floor above," she whispered. "Ritika says I have to go quiet now." I ran to grab her, but she was cold, her body limp, her breath shallow. In the hospital, the doctor said it was like her brain had gone into shock, like she'd experienced a massive trauma with no physical trigger. They couldn't explain it. Sarah hasn't spoken since. She just stares upward. Sometimes, she whispers. Sometimes, she scratches her own arms in her sleep. I moved out, but even now, sometimes at night, I hear the walls hum, and a text will arrive. From no number. She is almost quiet now. If someone offers to babysit for you, especially from an apartment that's supposed to be empty, don't say yes. Not unless you want your child to hear them too. My name is Arya. I'm 29, single mom, working full-time at a hotel in the evenings. My 6-year-old son, Liam, is my world. And this story is the one I never wanted to tell. I was desperate for help. My mom was sick, my ex was out of the picture, and Liam was too young to stay home alone. I posted on a verified nanny site, made sure to do all the safety checks. That's how I met Marla. She was 23, soft-spoken, well-dressed, but plain. Brown sweater, long black hair, no jewelry except for a dull silver ring. She showed up for the interview exactly on time, clutching a little red journal. Said she liked to observe children's sleep cycles and track it for parents. That sounded overly serious, but honestly, I was impressed. Liam seemed unsure at first. He didn't want to say hi. He whispered to me, "She smells like old leaves." I laughed awkwardly, but it chilled me. Kids are weird. Sure, but he'd never said anything like that before. Marla gave a faint smile when he said it, then calmly wrote something in her red journal. I asked what it was. She said, "First impressions are important. He remembers too much already." I should have ended it there. But again, desperation. I hired her on the spot. She was supposed to be temporary. 1 week, 7 nights. The first night went ... Okay. Liam was asleep when I got home. Marla sat on the couch, writing in her journal. I asked how he did. She said, he had trouble at first. But they usually do. Who's they? I asked. She looked up with that faint smile again. The ones who dream too loud? Asterisk. By night 3, I noticed changes in Liam. He stopped talking as much. He seemed tired in the mornings, like he hadn't slept at all. He asked strange questions like, "Mommy, if you forget your name in your sleep, do you stop being real?" And once, "Why does she look different when the lights are off?" I confronted Marla. I asked her exactly what she did while Liam slept. She blinked slowly and said, "I only record. The journal holds it all." Then she offered it to me. That stupid red book. I opened it and froze. Each page was filled with drawings, pages and pages of Liam sleeping, curled up, wide-eyed in bed. But the drawings were wrong. In many, he was floating above the bed. In others, there were things beside him, long-limbed shapes with hollow faces, just watching. One page had a sketch of Liam standing in front of the mirror, except his reflection was missing. I flipped to the most recent page. It showed Liam's bed, empty, and the words written below said, "He left his skin behind. Now he's learning to stay." I snapped. "You're sick," I shouted. "Get out of my house." Marla just stood up slowly, closing the journal. "You hired me." He invited them. "Now it's not just me you need to worry about." And then she left, calm, silent. I locked every door and window. That night, I checked on Liam hourly, at 2:57 a.m. He wasn't in bed. I searched the whole house in panic, and finally found him standing in the hallway facing the wall. His eyes were wide open but unblinking. When I touched his shoulder, he whispered, "SHH. She's showing me how to peel." I kept Liam home the next night. I didn't call Marla. I planned to report her. But at 3:11 a.m., Liam started screaming from his room. When I burst in, he was clawing at the wall, screaming about the red door and the shadows behind her. That was the first night I saw it. There was a thin crack running along the floor beneath his bed. One I swear hadn't been there before. From it, cold air seeped out. I pulled the bed aside and realized the floorboard beneath was rotting. When I pried it up, I found a hidden trapdoor. I had never seen that before, and we'd lived here for 3 years. I opened it. A narrow staircase led into complete darkness, and on the wall of the opening, scratched into the wood, were the words, "All the babysitters know where to look." I should have called the police. I should have run. But Liam was still shaking and muttering, "She's waiting for me down there." I grabbed a flashlight and went in. The stairs creaked under my weight. The air grew thick. And when I reached the bottom, I found a room. Not stone, not dirt. This room was painted, wallpapered in faded pink. A dusty crib sat in the corner. On the walls, drawings. Children's drawings. All in red crayon. And on the floor, in the center, was Marla's red journal. Opened. The pages flipped on their own. Then the flashlight died. In the dark, I heard breathing, close, wet, and then, her voice. "You should have let me finish." He was almost ready. I grabbed the book and ran. Carried Liam out that night. We moved in with my cousin the next morning. I burned the journal. It screamed when I did. The house is for sale now. One knows what's under that floor. But some nights, Liam still wakes up crying. Says he sees a woman standing in the corners of his dreams, wearing the same sweater, holding a new red journal, and she's drawing me now. I should have trusted my gut. Everyone tells you that, don't they? If something feels off, don't ignore it. But I did. My name's Rehan. I'm a 35-year-old father, living in Bangalore with my 4-year-old daughter, Noor. My wife passed away 2 years ago in a road accident. Since then, I've been juggling fatherhood and work as best as I can. Not easy, especially when your office suddenly switches you to the night shift. So I started looking for a babysitter. Local WhatsApp groups, agencies. I got dozens of leads, but one name kept coming up. Ava. People said she was great with kids, young, maybe 19 or 20, lived in the next neighborhood. No social media, no family around, but apparently clean background, no criminal records. She came highly recommended by 2 parents in my building who claimed she'd watched their kids without a single issue. One even said her daughter sleeps better when Ava's around. When I met her, I understood why people liked her. She was polite, soft-spoken, and oddly charming in a quiet way. Her black hair was always tied neatly, her clothes plain, and she smiled a lot. Almost too much. Not the bubbly kind. The kind that never quite reached her eyes. Still, Noor seemed fine with her. First night went smoothly. I came home. Noor was fast asleep. Ava was sitting still on the sofa, with her hands folded on her lap, just smiling. Said everything was fine, but by the 3rd night, I noticed Noor doing strange things. She whispered to herself more, refused to sleep without the lights on, and once, while brushing her teeth, she said, "Ava tells me how to stop my heart when I'm scared." The following week, things got darker. I started checking the security camera on my front door. I never installed any inside the house. I figured it was a privacy thing. But one night, around 2:40 a.m., I opened the live feed out of habit and saw Ava. She was standing still, just outside the apartment door. Not knocking, just standing, staring, smiling. I watched for 5 minutes. She never moved, not once. I rushed home, heart pounding. When I got there, everything was locked, quiet. Noor was asleep. Ava was in the living room. I asked her if she had stepped out. She just looked up at me and smiled. "No," she said calmly. "You must have seen someone else." I knew what I saw. Later that night, I checked Noor's room. She was murmuring in her sleep. Her hands were folded over her chest like she was in a coffin. I tried to shake her gently awake, but her eyes opened without blinking, and she said something I'll never forget. "Don't touch me. Ava says that's how bad men go missing." I pulled her out of bed and brought her to sleep in my room that night. The next morning, I called the parents who had recommended Ava. One said she had never heard of her. The other told me she moved to Chennai months ago. She hadn't used a babysitter since. When I checked Ava's phone number, it was disconnected. That's when I searched my apartment for signs of something, anything strange, and in the kitchen drawer, beneath the cutlery, I found a small notebook. Ava single quotes S. Inside were entries, dozens of them, each with a child's name, each one with notes. When I found Noor's name, my blood froze. Her entry read, "Greater than Noor, compliant. Still hears the others. Last step, the silent sleep. After that, she belongs." At the very bottom, in red ink, were just 2 words. "Father resists." That night, I didn't go to work. I pretended to leave, then snuck back in through the back staircase, hid in the storage room behind the kitchen, and left my phone on silent. From the tiny gap in the door, I watched Ava sit Noor down on the living room floor. She lit a single candle and began whispering something in a language I'd never heard before. Noor nodded blankly, like she wasn't even awake. Then Ava pulled a tiny cloth doll from her bag. Its face had no features. She placed it in front of Noor and whispered, "Now give her your sound." I couldn't take it. I rushed in, screaming. Ava didn't even flinch. She stood slowly, turned to me, and finally stopped, smiling. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. "This isn't for you." I ran to grab Noor, but Ava stepped between us. She didn't touch me. She didn't need to. I couldn't move. My legs went numb. My throat tightened. Ava leaned forward and said softly, "When the silence sleeps in you, I'll come back." Then she vanished. Not ran, not walked, just gone. The candle blew out. Noor collapsed in my arms. She was ice cold. She's okay now. She doesn't remember any of it. We moved 2 days later, left everything. I even changed my number, burned that notebook. But here's the part I can't explain. Every year, on the same date, March 14th, Noor gets a package. No address, no return label. Always a doll, always faceless. And I know what she's waiting for. The night the silence finally sleeps in me. My name is Aisha. I live in Hyderabad, in a quiet 2-bedroom flat with my son, Kabir. He's 5, funny, energetic, a little scared of the dark, like most kids his age. Ever since my divorce, it's just been the 2 of us. I work evenings at a call center, and when my usual babysitter moved back to Kerala, I was scrambling to find someone new. I didn't even advertise. One day, after a heavy monsoon evening, there was a knock at my door. It was around 6 p.m. Kabir was watching cartoons. I opened it to find a girl, maybe 17 or 18, soaking wet, in a bright yellow raincoat. Her hair was plastered to her face, and she had this blank expression. She smiled slowly and said, "I heard you needed help with your boy." I blinked. I didn't call anyone. She tilted her head. "But you do need someone, don't you?" I hesitated. She pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was my old babysitting ad one I had printed and posted on the community board 3 months ago. Someone had scribbled "She's perfect" across the top in red ink. I should have shut the door. Instead, I let her in. Her name was Riva. She said no last name, just Riva. She sat quietly on the couch with Kabir while I got ready for work. He seemed unsure of her, glancing at her sideways, but didn't complain. When I asked him later if he liked her, he just whispered, "She doesn't blink. Even when I look at her for a long time." The second night, it rained again. She arrived just as the thunder started, same yellow raincoat, same expressionless face. Kabir had started talking less. He stopped watching his cartoons. When I asked why, he said, "Riva says the box shows lies." That night I came home early. Something just didn't feel right. The lights were off. No TV, no bedtime stories. I found Kabir sitting on the floor, in his room, eyes wide, staring at the wall. Riva was behind him, holding a small cloth bag in her lap, whispering into it like she was trying to calm it down. "What's going on?" I demanded. She didn't respond at first. Then she looked up and said, "Your son has such clear eyes. They can still see them." "See who?" I shouted. She stood slowly. Still no blinking. "The wet ones. The ones under the bed. He listens to them too much." I told her to get out, right then. She just smiled and handed Kabir the cloth bag. "Don't let her take it away," she said softly, "or they'll take you instead." She walked out into the storm, barefoot, without her raincoat. I opened the bag. Inside were nails, human nails. Some still had chipped polish. Kabir whispered, "She says they belong to the others." I threw the bag away that night. The next day it was back, sitting on Kabir's pillow. Damp. I tried to report her, but no one had her name, no ID, no phone number. I asked the security guard if he'd seen her coming or going. He looked confused and said, "No one in a yellow raincoat's passed this gate in weeks, madam." I searched her name online. Nothing. No social presence. No school records. That night, Kabir refused to sleep. He kept saying, "She's under the bed now. She wants to show me where the other children went." I told him it was just a bad dream. I even got on my knees and looked under the bed. At first, I saw nothing. Then something moved. Slow, pale, fingers like twigs. Something smiled in the dark, its mouth wide, lips too thin, and I heard the soft whisper of Ren inside the room. I grabbed Kabir and ran. When I opened the front door, I saw Riva. She was dry, clean, standing in her yellow raincoat like she had never left, and behind her, there were other children, 6 or 7, all in yellow coats, all barefoot, all with wide, hollow eyes, and every single one of them held a cloth bag. Riva stepped forward and whispered, "Let him come. You already gave him the bag." I slammed the door. We left that night, moved in with my sister in Mumbai. Kabir barely speaks now, but sometimes I catch him staring at the rain outside. He hums this slow, strange tune I don't recognize, and just once I heard him whisper, "I didn't blink. Riva, can I come now?"